Those who've had the opportunity to hear our speaker this morning, you know what a wonderful event it's going to be. And for those who are hearing him for the first time, I congratulate you for being here. He is one of the major leaders of the New Thought movement throughout the world. He was one of the first to raise his hand and said, yes, let's become one during the integration movement. He was the first church that we know anything about that was affiliated with both organizations. He knew how to set it in motion. He has been a wonderful, wonderful leader for us, a great, great teacher of this dedicated commitment to reaching out to the world and letting them know what we are, who we are, and what we're about. He is our wonderful friend, as his dear wife Barbara and I have been friends for many, many, I've known her longer than you have. And it is great to have him here with her from Asheville, North Carolina. Let's welcome the Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse. Hello.
Thank you, brother. Good morning. I am so honored to be here. Let's get this thing set here. I think that's going to work. Is that working back in the sound booth? I got thumbs up. I'm good. I know. I'm affirming. I'm so honored to be here with you in this place, and I bring you greetings from North Carolina, from our community in Asheville, North Carolina. We had our celebrations this morning at 6:30 and 8 o'clock. Well, yeah, but you got to speak in present time, so we're here in California. Yeah, they're on the East Coast, but that's when they did it. And all is going well there, and all is going well here, because God is all there is. So we are creatures of habit, and I am certainly prone to habit. I start all of my lessons in wherever I am with a prayer, and it's a prayer that was created by Dr. Holmes. And being as you may know it, but you don't know it, that you know it yet. And either way, it's going to help me if we get to start with this. So I want to ask you to say a prayer with me. And the way I'll do it, this is a prayer that was, as I say, created by Dr. Holmes. I call it the identity prayer. And if you would say it with me, I'll say a part of it and then you repeat it back. And let's just go through this, okay? I think you're going to like this. I know that within myself, there is that life, which is perfect, complete, divine. It was never born, and cannot die, for it lives and is God. Within myself is the wholeness, peace, poise, and power of life. This life is health. It is abundance. It is love. There is one life, and it is the life of God. And this is my life now. And so it is. Isn't that great? Doesn't that just grab it all? I love that. I love that. I believe that if we live by that, that everything is revealed to us. And before I get into my lesson too much, I want to share, that was just a very elegant introduction by Dr. J, and so now I have to talk about Dr. J. I believe that he knew everybody before anyone else knew them. He shared with me last week that he knew Michael Beckwith before his wife Ricky Byers knew Michael, and he knew Ricky before Michael knew her. And I thought, my God, if he knew that, he knows everything, and he just laid it on me. He's known my wife longer than I have. My wife was the first religious scientist I ever met. I walked into the Miami Church of Religious Science and came into the office and said, "What is this thing? It says Science of Mind out there on the sign. What is that?" And she told me something. And I was I was impressed enough to take her advice and show up on Sunday morning and sit in the first chair on the front row on that side of the aisle. And that was my seat for the next 5 years until I moved away from that community. And I was so impressed with it, I married that woman that came out from the back, and it really has worked out well. We've been married 22 years. We have a wonderful work in North Carolina, where we chose to that was the place that we were called to be. So we're up in the mountains of western North Carolina. We have a great community. And if I'm allowed to make a prayer request from the stage, those of you that are practitioners, those of you that are ministers, and anyone else that wants to, this month we are opening up Light of Wisdom Elementary School. It is a Science of Mind school, K through 8. Yay. So if you would, keep that in your prayers. We know it's going to be bumpy, but it's going to be great all the way through. Something that we have come to say in our community is the high road is not always paved. And that's okay. That's okay, because the bumps are God too. So my story's about Jay. I got started, but I didn't finish. I have been hearing from my wife for years about Dr. J. Scott Neal. And I finally met him about 10 years ago. And we hit it off immediately. I saw this incredible person that had been iconic in my understanding, and he was everything that they told me he was. And speaking of integration, Jay, I want to thank you for keeping us honest through this process. Thank you. It is all working out better than we imagined. And really to be one again has such a powerful influence, not only on our specific movement and on the world. We're setting new paradigms for how people can be in spiritual community. And it's really working out. Back to Jay, because that's what I really wanted to talk about. One thing that I know that he has been doing, I understand, for 29 years is reading Sermon by the Sea at Asilomar, in the chapel where Dr. Holmes actually gave that address. And I've read that many times, but I'd never heard it. And I got to hear it. And I'm so glad that I waited 29 years to hear it. He's really got it down. But it touched me. It touched me. I mean, I really was in that space imagining that this was Dr. Holmes sharing these great words of wisdom with all of us for generations. And I got to feel that in that room, and it was just so powerful and moved me so much that I skipped dinner. Now, can you imagine how impressed I was that I went back to my room and sat with that? And it really did work for me. Dr. J has had interesting influences on my life. One is that once we became friends and we would speak often on the telephone, he would always refer to me as Johnny, or more like, Johnny! Now, when I was a child, I was called Johnny, but I let that go a long time ago. And many years ago, my son was actually taken from me, and his name was Johnny, and when he was 6, and I haven't had a relationship with him since. So I had this kind of hole in my heart around that word. So much so that I told my mother-in-law she could never call me that when she tried. So I have this stubbornness that says, nobody calls me that. How do you tell J. Scott Neal not to do anything? Which gave me the opportunity to go inside and heal that. And now when he calls me Johnny, like he just did, it works. Thank you, sir. Now, what I want you to understand is he can call me Johnny. The rest of you stick with John, okay? All right, and I'll continue working on that. What I want to talk to you about this morning, I call being who we have come here to be. I got this phrase, being who we have come here to be, from a unity minister, a man named Gary Simmons. Dr. Gary Simmons is a bit of an intellectual. He worked in Unity Village for a number of years, helping create a more successful unity movement. His work was called the Integral Spiritual Community. And he did some powerful work in that. And, you know, like I say, he's an intellectual. He hangs out with people like Ken Wilber. You all know who that is. And, or some of you do. If you don't, look it up. Google him. Or spiral dynamics, this concept that actually got quite a bit into RSI, ICSL about understanding organizations. And I have a PhD in organizational psychology, so it's of interest to me. And I liked what Gary was doing I liked some of what Gary was doing. And Gary and I have a good friendship. We had to get past a couple of things, like when I invited him, when I was president of the UCSL Ministers Association, and we brought Gary in to speak, and he began by by asking this question: what is the difference between unity and religious science? He said, religious science has great music, and unity has Jesus Christ. We had to get through that. Clearly, Gary has not read the Science of Mind textbook. But once we got through that and saw that his work was valid, this is the statement that has always stayed with me. Being who we have come here to be. Sounds like a simple statement, but there's something to it. And where it takes me first is the idea that many people think that the science of mind is about having. We can treat and create whatever we want, and that's the focus of the science of mind. But it isn't. It isn't, even though that's kind of the tag that we get in New Thought. The higher understanding is that this idea of having is an integral part of our culture. Yet what I discovered before I began my ministry, I worked in public housing. I worked nationally in a lot of different public housing communities around the country, teaching leadership. And it was cute. I thought I went in there to help those people, and they actually gave me an education. And one thing they taught me is that people who don't have much aren't looking for much. There's a sense of contentment in communities that otherwise look impoverished. It's the people who have a lot that want more. So the more that you have, the more you want. And it kind of grows geometrically. So that when you really get to where you have a lot, now you really get going and want a lot of stuff. And that has its limitation in other areas of your life because you can get out of balance. But what I realize is that this idea of having, starting with not having much and then moving into space of having more and wanting more and more, also applies, I think, philosophically to the idea of beingness. When you don't have much self-awareness, when you don't really get who you are, certainly when no one's ever told you that you are the divine presence, existing fully present on planet Earth, but that your spiritual nature is your true self. When you start to explore that, the more you get it, the more you want to get. You get hungry for it. That's why these crazy people that were so identified in this room as ministers couldn't stop. They couldn't stop learning. They couldn't stop seeking to understand this. We have a pretty simple philosophy. In fact, that's why I think being a minister in this movement is so extraordinary. Because we have this simple philosophy, God is all there is, that is who we are, yet we have to present that 52 times a year with a different face so that people will listen to us. And we manage to do that because there are great nuances in this. So the idea of being who we've come to be becomes a very powerful notion, this idea of the divine presence right here where we are. But how do we figure that out? How do we accept this at its fullest expression and live it to the greatest level that we can? How do we do that? Well, I go back to my statement, being who we've come here to be. If we turn that into a question, the first question has to be, well, who have I come here to be? And that's worth exploring. Because yes, you are the divine. You are the presence of God, moved into physical form, manifest to do whatever is yours to do in this plane of existence, and to experience what is ever yours to experience in this plane of existence. But you do it differently than everyone else. No two of us do that the same way. So God expressed as you has its unique qualities. It has its elements that make you the actualized presence of God that is different than every other actualized presence of God in the universe. Okay, so what do we do with that? We ask that question. Who have I come here to be? How do we get the answer? Well, you have to look inside. And the way I have done it, the way we have asked our community to do it, is to look inside and see what it is that we value the most. Values are such a great piece of work that I do in my ways of training. And our community to go back to my original idea that we are not about having, we are about being, we have 6 values in our community stated. The first one is